be discussing some new NHL trade rumors, and they concern the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Montreal Canadiens, the Arizona Coyotes, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. On this channel, we review and discuss all 31 NHL teams with an unbiased opinion. So if you're a huge hockey fan, hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss anything. Alright, so let's jump into the latest NHL news and trade talk. There's obviously lots of speculation now that the trade freeze has been lifted after the holidays. And as we approach the midway point of the season, there's a lot of teams that are very interested in wheeling and dealing based on how their season has gone. Now, some of the things we're going to discuss today, we've kind of touched on before, but we'll put a fresh twist on it today. First rumor we're going to discuss is the Arizona Coyotes and Anthony Duclair. Obviously, Duclair had a pretty solid rookie season, putting up a 20-goal campaign and some pretty decent stats overall, but he really hasn't followed that up with a very good season this year. Now, he has had a few bright moments. There was one game earlier this year against Ottawa where he scored a hat-trick and actually looked pretty solid. But his play has been very inconsistent, and with the emergence of some other younger players there, he's kind of lost his role a little bit, and he seems to have been kind of moved his way down the depth chart a little, and that's just not working out for him. So there has been some speculation that maybe a place for him to go to might be the New York Rangers. Obviously, as some of you may know, he started with the Rangers. That's where he was drafted and began his NHL career, but was soon traded to the Arizona Coyotes. Now, I think a big part of the reason why the Coyotes went and picked him up is he was part of Team Canada at the World Junior Championships a couple of years ago, and he played on a line with Max Domi. They had fantastic chemistry and really helped Team Canada win the gold medal. So I think they saw that chemistry, they saw an opportunity to get him out of New York, and thought they'd have themselves something there to kind of rely on for the future. But things just haven't worked out. Domi's been playing more with Keller, and might be time for Duclair to find some new scenery. A fresh start might be just what he needs. I'm not sure if the Rangers rumor really has much to it. I mean, at this point, they can bring him in. Obviously, he doesn't have a huge salary where he's still in his entry-level deal, but there certainly would be some other teams interested. He does have enough of a scoring pedigree that I think there are definitely some teams out there that would take a chance on him. So I can see him possibly getting moved. I'm not sure if that would necessarily be a deal that goes down here sooner than later. Could be a deal for the summertime. But I can see Duclair working his way out of Arizona, and landing back with the Rangers might be a possibility. Next up, let's jump into the Montreal Canadiens speculation going on right now. There's been a lot of rumors in the last couple of days, and I hadn't touched on it here yet because we've touched on it here before, but it seems to be coming up again and again, and anytime I read any kind of trade rumors or any news related to trades online anywhere, it seems to be the name of Max Pacioretty keeps coming up over and over and over. So, are the Habs really looking to deal him? The answer, in my opinion, is probably yes, for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, as everyone knows, their season has not gone very well, and at this point in time, looks like the playoffs are all but lost. So, you have that to consider. You have the fact that he has a very friendly contract at, I believe he's making, was it $4.5 million, I think it is, that he makes, but he only has another year left. And then at that point, he's going to be looking to cash in on his past success, as he's been a pretty steady, proven 30 to 40 goal scorer through a majority of his career. Now, this year has not been a great year for Max Pacioretty. I believe he went the whole month of December without a goal. Certainly I like him, but I can pretty much guarantee with his pedigree and his proven history, there's a lot of teams that are going to line up to try to nab him out of Montreal, especially with the price tag that comes with him. And maybe a fresh scenery and a new start somewhere might be exactly what he needs to get his scoring touch going again. Now, when we've discussed it before, earlier this year there was a rumor about a big deal that might go down between the Rangers and the Habs, and there's some speculation there. That was the old speculation. Haven't heard a whole lot about that recently. I'm not real sure that there's a whole lot more to that at this point in time. The Rangers have really improved their game, and I'm not sure that it could make sense, but at the same time, not sure that that's going to go down. The other speculation that keeps coming up is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, the Penguins and Habs have been linked to some trade speculation here for the last couple of weeks. It's really hard to say if there's much to it, but as we know, it wouldn't be to come to anybody's surprise that there's a lot of teams interested in Pacioretty. And as I've discussed on here before, the Penguins have also reportedly shown interest in Alex Galchenyuk before. Now, the latest Penguin player to be listed as being shopped around has been Kris Letang. Now, it's been hard to say if there's been a lot of truth to that, and the fact that he's back on the injury reserve yet again certainly have slowed those talks down in the past week. But it seems to be have some legs here that they have been shopping him around. Now, it's going to be a tough contract to move for sure, but at the same time, we've seen deals go down before that prove that there's no contract that's really impossible to trade. And for the right move, it could be done. So obviously, as I mentioned, Letang does have a modified no trade clause, but I would think if he were to be moved, that Montreal would be on his list. He's from the Montreal area. He's probably grew up a Habs fan. I don't think he would try to block a move to the Habs. Now, if the Habs were to make a move with the Penguins to bring him in, their defense is going to be eating up a large amount of the salary cap. If they were to bring in Letang, and they've already got Petrie and Alzner and Weber, I mean, they've just got a lot of money tied up on that blue line. I'm just not real sure that that's really what they need. Now, they could use some help on the back end. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I'm not sure they really want to have that much money tied up on their blue line, especially with some aging defenders. Letang's a good player, Weber's a good player, but do they really want to have that much money tied up? Their top four could be Weber, Alzner, Petrie, Letang. Sounds good, maybe a couple of years ago, but these guys are all pretty good, but in their own right. But that much money in your top four for a team in that kind of position just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, of course, if they had Pacioretty or Galchenyuk, or a combination of maybe both or one of the two or whatever going the other way, obviously there'd be lots of money going out and free up a lot of room up front. But I'm just not so sure that right now that deal's going to go down. The Pittsburgh Penguins haven't been able to turn it around, and they're falling deeper and deeper into a bigger hole here to even make the playoffs as we keep waiting for the ball to drop and a move to be made. So if the Penguins don't do something soon, right now it looks like their existing team just isn't getting the job done on any kind of a consistent basis to get themselves back into the playoff talk. I'm not so sure, though, that would be a good move on Montreal's part. Now, for Pittsburgh, from their perspective, if they could unload Letang for Pacioretty, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'm not so sure that would be an even straight-up deal. I think Penguins would probably have to give up a little bit more, just considering Letang's health. But the fact is that Max Pacioretty's name keeps coming up over and over and over. And if it's not Pittsburgh, it could very well be somewhere else. Now, keep in mind, even though Marc Bergevin and the Montreal management team would keep reportedly denying the fact that they're shopping this guy, they also said the same thing, adamantly, about PK Subban. And look what happened there. They're not going to tell you the truth that they're actively shopping their captain. The question is, and what I want you guys to leave in the comments, is if the Habs do trade Pacioretty, what is the most likely landing spot for him? Is it Pittsburgh? Is it the Rangers? Where do you think he's going to end up going, and what could Montreal get in return? I think they could certainly land themselves a pretty good roster player, and maybe even a pick or prospect or two to go in with it. But the question is where? Alright, now it's time we discuss the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, there's been a lot of Leaf speculation and rumors throughout this season, and even back into last offseason. However, there hasn't really been a whole lot happening in TO, and I think before the trade deadline, we are going to see a few things, but I don't expect it to be anything too major. I know there's been lots of speculation around their pending UFAs between JVR, Bozak, and Komarov, and obviously there's a clear, evident need on the back end. Their defense core is struggling. I think they have a decent top four, but their 5, 6, 7 spots could certainly be upgraded. I don't think they're going to be able to go out and get 2 or 3 defensemen by any means, but if you look at the fact that their top four could be Zaitsev, Riley, Gardner, and Hainsey, that's not too bad, and for the most part, they haven't done too terribly bad. I mean, Jake Gardner at times is a defensive liability out there, but if he's playing the right amount of minutes against the right pair, if you maybe made him a third pair defenseman, for example, then that might be an option that might allow him to play better to his strengths and not be so exposed out there. But between Zaitsev, who's currently injured, and Hainsey and Riley, they're not doing too badly, but they could certainly use some help back there, and a couple of the younger guys they have, like Carrick, Borgman, or even Roman Polak, I just don't think they're the answer. And if the Toronto Maple Leafs really want to go all in and make a run this year to try to see what they can do, then I think that's the biggest area that they need. Now, the trade chip that they have in their corner is Tyler Bozak. out of all their UFAs, I think it makes most sense that they trade Bozak, because I think he makes the most sense to not bring back next year. So you might as well trade him for a player that can come back now so you can get something in return. I think with the salary cap being increased next year, yes, they have a lot of contracts to redo. They got Matthews, Marner, and Nylander all coming up soon. But due to the salary cap increase that we're going to see for next season, I don't think it's unrealistic to think that they could retain JVR. And they could possibly retain Komarov as well. I'm not sure, I'm not sold on the fact that they'd want to retain Komarov. They very well may let him go. But I think at the very least they would hang on to him for a playoff run. I think a player of his type could certainly be helpful for the playoffs. But into next year, not sure. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think when it comes to the Leafs UFAs between JVR, Bozak, and Komarov? Are any or all of them, or which ones do you think the Leafs try to bring back for next year, and who gets signed? Personally, I think that there's a pretty good chance they will sign JVR. There's a really good possibility here, based on speculation, of course, that he would be willing to kind of take a bit of a discount and stay in Toronto. So I mean, if they can get him between $5 and $6 million, even if they have to sign him for 4 or 5 years, I'm not sure they'd want to do a 7 or 8 year deal with him, given his age and the stage of his career he's at right now. But if they can get him for a 4 or 5 year deal around $5 or $6 million with a guy who's pretty consistently between 25 to 30 goals, I think they should take that deal. I mean, that makes a lot of sense for Toronto, and then they can retain him along with Matthews, Kadri, Nylander, Marner, Marleau. Like, they've got a pretty solid top 6 and even top 9 when you throw in some of the other guys like Hyman and Brown, etc. So really, I think Toronto mainly needs some D, and I think Bozak is the guy to get it. Now, he's not going to fetch them a top pairing defenseman by any means, but you might be able to get a second or third defenseman, second pair or third pair defenseman, and that is where they need the upgrade. I mean, the guys they have aren't doing bad. Could they make a blockbuster move? Maybe. I think if they were going to do something, and there has been speculation, but maybe looking at Oliver Ekman-Larsson in Arizona. Personally, I don't know if they are going to get that deal done. I know it's going to take a lot more than Tyler Bozak to do the deal. Obviously, they would have to part with at least one of their top prospects, and if not either a couple prospects, a couple picks, going to be a combination there. I would imagine Arizona is going to want back probably either Marner or Nylander, and I'm just not sure that the Leafs are willing to do that. I would probably go for more of a depth move, a second, third pair guy, and I had some defensemen in mind that I think they should take a look at, and you can let me know in the comments if you think this makes sense, or which one of these you think would be the best move for Toronto. So for example, they've got Mike Green in Detroit. Detroit obviously doesn't look like they're making the playoffs. Green has got lots of experience. Now, he's not the best player defensively, but he would certainly be a nice upgrade to bring the offense from the back end for sure. Then a player like Jake Gardiner could drop down, be a third pairing guy, and maybe be better suited so he's not so exposed defensively. So that might be something to consider. They could take a look at Arizona. If it's not Ekman-Larsson, they could certainly be looking at some other players, like, for example, Nicholas Chalmerson and Jason Demers. Now, Chalmerson was brought in as that solid D-man to kind of shore things up, have some experience back there, and things haven't really worked out for him in Arizona. So, you know, obviously, you know, a Bozak for Chalmerson trade, it might be something they could take a look at, but I think Arizona certainly has a couple of defensemen that they could take a look at, even if it's not Ekman-Larsson. I think a deal like Ekman-Larsson, if that were to go down, that's something that would more likely happen in the offseason, and it would probably be like a blockbuster deal that would go down at the draft or something. And that's even if it does happen. I think so. For Toronto, I think it makes the most sense to use Bozak to obtain a second, third pairing defenseman. A couple of those names I threw out there, those are not names I have heard trade rumors about those players, not necessarily connected to Toronto, but I think at the same time, you know, those are guys that they should take a look at. So let me know, what do you think? Do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be making any big moves? I personally don't. I think using Bozak for a depth defenseman is probably your best shot now, and then you'll deal with the rest of it in the offseason. Don't forget to leave some comments and let me know what you think of all this trade speculation. And also don't forget, if you're new to the channel and you love hockey, consider subscribing today to Top Shelf Hockey.